Now, it didn't seem that long ago that I was covering a V series from Vivo, and now we have a new model here. This is the Vivo V60. It does have still that Zeiss partnership with the image optimization, the lenses, and this model here has a very large battery, so 6,500 milliamp hours. It's powered by the Snapdragon 7 Gen 4. The edition they sent out to me, the model, does have 512 gigabytes of storage and 12 gigabytes of RAM. That's where it caps out. The base model has 8 and 128 gigabytes of storage. The cameras, so there's two on the back that are 50 megapixels. That's their telephoto camera and the main. But the ultra-wide is 8 megapixels. Front-facing camera is 50. The screen, it is 6.77 inches, 120 hertz, an AMOLED screen. And in this review, I'm going to show you what the new Vivo V60 is all about. And what does Vivo include with the V60? So we'll get our flash charger right here, and you can see the size of it. It's a little bit bigger than normal. SIM tray tool. The Type-C cable is a Type A to Type C, so not Type C to Type C, this charger, unfortunately. And we do get a TPU case. So great to see this is included, because so many brands nowadays are just giving us the phone and maybe a Type-C cable. That's it. No charger, no case, normally. This version that Vivo sent over to me has the 12 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabytes of storage. The base model starts with 8 and 128 gigabytes of storage, which is not expandable, unfortunately. This is what it's called, the berry purple color. The edges are rounded. It does have this frosted finish to it. This is glass, and this is what is called their diamond shield glass here that they have. And it does seem to pick up fingerprints and smudges. You can see them straight away there. Now, the camera's on the back, so 50 megapixel sensors here. We have a zoom camera from them, and they're using Zeiss optimization again. And the cameras I'm really impressed with, the portrait mode, the natural preset, you get all those Zeiss colors, and I think they are really about flagship grade. However, the ultra-wide is not. This is the ultra-wide. That one is 8 megapixels, so it does not support 4K video. The zoom and the main camera, they have optical image stabilization. They do support 4K video. Very good to have that. The button location is good. The weight of this, 192 grams. The thickness is 7.53, so it's thinner than their flagships. Good access to that button. And then our optical fingerprint reader, I don't like the location. Vivo's been doing this for the V series for a while, that I think it should be about here, but it's a bit lower. But that's just a very minor nitpick from me. You get used to it. And our screen, 120 hertz. This is AMOLED, and it's up to 5,000 nits, 6.77 inches. The resolution is just 1080p. Well, this is a 1080, well, Full HD Plus, screen here. And it's very good. It's a nice screen, and considering this is a mid-range phone, all good, powered by that Snapdragon 7 Gen 4. And I'll get a little bit more into the performance and other things, but let's still continue with the design and the build of it here. So the front-facing camera, this selfie camera is also 50 megapixels, and you can get a bit of an ultra-wide shot from it, and you've got the Zeiss presets for that too as well, which is excellent. We do have dual loudspeakers. SIM tray tool takes dual SIM, and this does not support video out, so it's just USB 2 speeds. That's the downside to this phone, that it's very slow transfers, USB 2, no video out. For mid-range phones, I kind of do expect that. IR transmitter is here, the other microphones, so that's all good. Plastic frame on it, but it feels good. It feels very solid. I like the build. I do like the look of the phone here and what Vivo has done, especially fitting in that 6,500 milliamp hour battery and the 90 watt charging. Global version of this, so it is FunTouch OS, and it's based off Android 15, and it's FunTouch OS version 15. I find it fine. I have to say that they have improved somewhat. I used to criticize FunTouch a lot. The Origin OS, the Chinese version of what you would get with their software, is better, yes, but now the difference isn't that bad. Optimization is very good with it. Everything's pretty quick and snappy, and I am on the latest firmware, of course, at the time of this view for my testing, and I have not encountered any bugs. I find the touch gestures all working very well. Touch response is excellent, and I've not experienced any problems or issues with that, thankfully, so that is all great there. Now, a display does have your typical Android settings that you would find in there to do with the colors that you can adjust those. Refresh rate 120 Hz as mentioned. I've forced it to that. It is by default on what is called the smart switch. That's going to swap between 60 and 120. Unfortunately, no 90 Hz option. I really love to see a manual 90 Hz option in the phones I do review because, as I've said many times, you can get that perfect balance between fluidity and then some battery savings there, so you don't have that. Resolution cannot be changed, but it's Full HD Plus anyway, so it's that 2392 by 1080. The screen brightness, their claim is 5000 nits. I'm not able to measure this. My equipment doesn't seem to be able to pick that up, and what I can measure out of the screen is just over 1200 nits. Now, in direct sunlight, the display is viewable. It looks worse here on camera than what it really is, but I have to comment and say that it is not the clearest and brightest that I've seen, even out of a mid-range phone. Another area of minor criticism from me is that the bloatware is a little bit excessive. There's this recommended apps folder that does have a lot of bloatware apps. So you got TikTok and you can see Facebook here and a few others. It's starting to increase with Vivo, and I hope they tone down on this a little bit. But there are these categories here. The apps haven't been downloaded, and you can simply go along and remove those two at least. So it's not as bad as brands like Xiaomi, which are getting really crazy. Well, especially when it comes to their more cheaper brands like Redmi and Poco. Widevine level 1 is there and present, so Full HD for Amazon Prime Video, Netflix, Disney Plus, all good. The internal storage, as I said before, I've got 512 gigabytes with this model. They sent me the top spec. They normally do for reviewers. The speeds are not great, so this is definitely not UFS 4. It is a mid-range chipset. I don't even believe it supports actually UFS 4.0. That's, I don't think, even part of it. But still okay. When you look at the random access, this is the important one to really focus on. The reads are very high, so the storage is not going to give us any bottlenecks or slowdown. Battery life, as expected, is very good. 6,500 milliamp hours is a very large capacity considering how slim it is, and yet it still only weighs 192 grams, so that's a pretty good feat, and being only the 7.53 millimeters the thickness. What this translates into, this test that you can compare in all my reviews, is a really good result, and that was forced to 120 Hz refresh rate too as well. This is a 2-day phone, for me at least. If you're a super heavy user, well, you might not be able to get the 2 days, but I think most people will. In fact, even some people will be able to get 3 days before even needing to charge. Charge times, 90 watt flash charge, are good. So I started off with 8%, and it took 27 minutes to get to 51%, and then to fully charge, that was 59 minutes. So just under an hour. I think that's fantastic considering you got to factor that in. That this is 6,500 milliamp hours we're talking about here. Now, what about the actual performance? Well, it is very good, and I'll get onto those benchmarks soon. But I took this screenshot here to point out another minor thing I've found that could be a major for some. No eSIM support. But I do have a Vivo X200 Pro right here. That's got eSIM support, the global version. So I don't understand why it doesn't have it, and I hope that it can be added. So the Antutu score shows us definite mid-range. Flagships nowadays are going to get 2.3 million, over 2 million with the Antutu score. So this is still decent. It's still good performance. And what about the throttling on this chip? Not too bad. We're losing approximately 30%, but around about the 15, 14, 13-minute mark, it drops off. But then it bounces back, which was a bit weird. On the 20-minute mark of this very demanding test, it started to throttle then a little bit more. But this is quite good. And yes, the frame on the phone, especially around where the camera module is, does get a little warm. It got up to 45 degrees internally. The frame was 43 degrees. So you notice the heat, but it's not smoking hot, which, well, I would classify as very hot for a phone, is when it gets to 50 plus, which I have seen with some flagship phones, but not normally mid-ranges. Mid-range phones normally don't run so hot, but you will feel some heat around this area and a little bit on the frame. So the fingerprint reader, as I mentioned, the location's poor, but it is a fingerprint reader that is working really well for me. I've never had it fail. Even though it is optical, it seems to work just as well as ultrasonic in my X200 Pro. And that is that it's never skipped a beat on me. It hasn't misread my finger. And we're talking about summer here, so maybe in winter that could change, because sometimes when your skin dries out a little bit, they have a bit of trouble there. So I've got to mention that the noise cancelling seems to be present there with voice calls. Voice call quality seems to be absolutely fine. Haptics is nothing amazing. Typing on that keyboard gives you a little tiny pulse, and it's not the strongest that I have experienced. Now the loudspeakers, we'll jump into YouTube here. I'm going to test this out with a non-copyright song. There's a little bit of bass present, but not a lot. It's mostly highs and mids, and the loudness is good. These are loudspeakers, the dual loudspeakers that it does come with. It just doesn't have that kind of amount of bass that you hear from some other phones. Not to say that it's bad, I just say that they're average loudspeakers, but the loudness definitely is good. Now we're seeing that Antutu score. It's around about 1 million points, and Genshin Impact, I've put it onto the top settings here, and it runs fine. You occasionally see some frame dips, which is to be expected that with the Snapdragon 7 Gen 4, it is not their top dog. We're not talking about the Snapdragon 8 Elite here, but it still plays. It plays fine, and if you can put up with the occasional frame dip, then you're going to be fine for even the most demanding games out there, like Genshin Impact is certainly, I think, still within the top 3 games. Moving over to our cameras with the Vivo V60. So this front-facing camera here, it allows me to shoot in 4K 60, 4K 30. It doesn't seem to be using electronic image stabilization at 4K. It is a little bit shaky, and we have seen this before with the V series with Vivo. It seems to be the X series. They do have the electronic image stabilization, and I don't know why it's not enabled here. So it is a little bit shaky, this footage, which is a bit disappointing for people that want to vlog. Now there is really no wind at all at the moment, so we shouldn't hear any wind noise from those microphones. So here's our main camera here. I'm shooting 4K 30 frames per second. You can shoot 4K 16. What you're looking at is El Racon. So this is a castle that has never been conquered, and you can kind of understand why, because it had really great defense. You can see they've got a few towers around here. Now I can apply from the main camera some digital zoom here, preset of 2 times. Still looks all right, and it's got this natural moat around it. So either side, in fact, there is a river, and that's why this was never conquered, and just the single entrance here. Now I've swapped over to the 3 times zoom here, so we have our optical zoom camera, and much better quality than that 2 times, which was half digital, half optical. And I can zoom in a little bit more, which I'll do to the main keep. So that is now, this is to 5 times. All right, and the quality's degrading somewhat. Optical image stabilization and electronic here. I'll just keep zooming in. So this is now 10 times zoom. And you can see that is not looking as good. And I'll zoom back, but unfortunately I can't go straight over to the ultra wide because that's only 1080p and I'm shooting in 4K. So I can get more in the shot. It's just not as sharp and as detailed as the main camera and our optical zoom camera. The electronic image stabilization at 1080p does seem to work really well.
These cameras for a mid-range phone, very good. We've got the Zeiss optimisation. I like what I'm seeing, but skin tones are a little bit too white and there's a bit of skin smoothing. So there is some tweaking needed, some firmware updates, I feel. I've noticed with some of the portrait zoom shots, this one at 50mm, that there is a bit of noise. So that needs to be corrected, and I believe it's all just software. But other shots do look really good, and I'm happy with especially the portraits in general from this and the 3 times optical zoom camera. Certainly, the weakest camera is the 8 megapixel ultra wide. I mean, it can take decent shots. There's a little bit of noise to it, and you do notice around the edges, that is more obvious, that noise. And they do tend to apply a bit more sharpening than usual. So showing you now the zoom cameras, looking at El Racon Castle, so 23mm. This is then me taking up to the 3 times optical zoom, and I then apply 10 times, and the results are still good. That's a usable photo there. And it's another shot here, 10 times zoom. I mean, it's not perfect, but for a mid-range phone, it's excellent. The zoom capabilities of this camera. HDR is impressive. I'm using the Zeiss Natural preset here, and so many details captured in the sunset right here with this shot. They do an excellent job with the Zeiss optimization. Zoom shots, this one of snow looking excellent. So much detail there. And low light performance, not bad at all for a mid-range phone.
All up, this is an excellent phone that takes, I think, pretty much flagship level photos apart from the ultra wide. That is the downside to the Vivo V60. It's got excellent battery life. The performance is very decent. FunTouch OS 15 with the Android 15 base here is optimized really well. It is very smooth. Gaming performance is okay. It's nothing amazing from this chipset, but it still is decent and it can still play the most demanding games, but you may, with some of them, have to lower the visuals down just a little bit in order to maintain a higher frame rate so you don't see any major stutters or anything like that. The loudspeakers don't have a huge amount of bass to them, but they are reasonably loud. And the portrait quality, very good. The zoom shots look great for a mid-range. The video quality is excellent. And my only real complaints with it is the fact that there's no eSIM support. Why is that missing? Well, we get it with the Flagship X series, and I'm sure they could add it with this model here, which I hope they do, Vivo. And the other is that ultra-wide, which I already said. It's not the absolute best quality there. I mean, it takes okay stills, but for video, you're stuck at 1080p. So if you wanted 4K ultra-wide footage, you're not going to get it with the Vivo V60. So thank you so much for watching this review. Hope you did like it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.